once again on the recertification and training from ONYX with automation and upgrade content from version 22.5. Today we'll split the session into two. First 2 hours now, then we'll have a quick break for an hour, and then the second session. The recertification training is to refresh the knowledge. We will touch all the necessary things that the technician should know while they're on site, while they do installation, but also you'll get some additional knowledge which you can use to support your customers who more often request for automation and getting their print shop more efficient, which will be covered in the second part. Additionally, in the last part, we'll touch the automation, though the notion of efficiency we will be doing, and I'll be talking about it during the whole training, as the RIP itself, ONYX, and the functionalities are not only to rip and print simply, what we quite often hear from the customers, but they are to make the print shops more efficient and help the customers, even those smallest, to automate, right? So as technicians, product specialists, application specialists, you are the first to deliver the specific knowledge to the customers. You are the ones to reply to the questions that customers have. Most of you probably know ONYX, and some of you know the products for donkey years, but over the years the products have changed and the portfolio looks a bit different than it used to be over a few years. So we'll, in the first part of this session, we'll do product portfolio. It will help you to better to target what the customer's needs are when you're on site, and if a customer requests you, hey, what sort of read I'll need to print properly, and what functionalities I can use to get more efficient, right? To have more savings and to have more control on my in my print shop, right? So basically, as you can see, we have RIP products that are stationary products, which is the RIP Center, poster shop, and still production house, which is not available for sale anymore. The customers still do have a production house on site, and they upgrade the software itself. The next group is the site solution with Thrive, which is the flagship product of ONYX, which is a network solution. We'll be discussing all these products shortly, more thoroughly. Then we move to subscription models, an additional tool for true shape nesting, which customers often use. So what are the differences, right? Which we find in the RIP products, right? So the basic products, which are the stationary products, as you can see, are products that RIP Center and Poster Shop that are installed on a PC, so stationary hardware driven. Then the printout goes to directly to the printer from a particular device, plus a CATX solution as an option, right? So in that case, what quite often I can hear, okay, so then how many printers can we connect to Poster Shop, because RIP Center is a rather RIP to print plus cut solution, but how many more machines can I connect, right? Because for Thrive, as you probably know, there are some sites that have a few machines. And the rule of thumb, which I have discussed with the dev team, is more like 4 printers to be connected to Poster Shop is pretty much enough. Why is that? Because just imagine that you have connected 4 machines and you start 4 printing processes, plus you have to rip or rip one or more jobs. Then it will slowly overload the PC and can create bottlenecks if you have more printers, right? If you try to connect more printers, then you will have to consider already a decent machine, right? And then just imagine that you will be doing 4 printers from one PC. Yes, it's possible, though please be careful, because that can overload the PC. As for Rip Center and Poster Shop, you can we rather would be focusing on Poster Shop, as a Rip Center is a basic solution without additional options as a production tools, which we'll cover a little bit later. But with Poster Shop, you can already do an kind of a basic workflow, including cutters, any like flatbed cutter like Suma. Or if your customer really wants to connect, yes, we can connect in a flatbed cutter like Zund or Kongsberg, which you also do. And even in the kind of the basic setup with Poster Shop, customers can already a little bit automate with hot folders, which I'll show you a little bit later when we cover the installation part, right? So here you have the differences. What you can see, I purposely I don't include the production house, as we don't offer it as such, right? So you can see Rip Center is 1 active rip plus 1 printer level 1. So it's kind of, as you can see, basic solution without additional options as such. Then the Poster Shop Limited, which will already have the production tools and layout tools, and will drive the printers from level 1 and 2. As you can see, the production tools are the features that will enable customers or let the customer do the basic automation processes, right? So bleeds, grommets, which will be any finishing, which we'll be talking about shortly, right? And obviously, the full Poster Shop for the customers who really want and they do the ICC profiling, because there are a few customers who really need it and do it. So yes, there is an option for them, so we can do it. But usually, as far as I can see, the technicians they have their own key, so demo key, which they use to create IC profiles. And for some of the printers, there are already profiles, ICC profiles and settings available, like for HP, Epson. We also have in the color base profiles, ICC profiles available for Muto, Mimaki, and the other machines. But generally, profile generation is for the customers who require to have special needs, right? Subscription model. Before we go to Thrive, here you can see the difference, right? It says pretty much Rip Center. As you can see, if you compare it Go Light, and in the Poster Shop, if you compare it to Go Plus, so the difference you can see here, the customer can use the 2 printers with Plus and has all the options available from Poster Shop. What is the biggest advantage? Then the customer will always be on the latest version, which is pretty important. So what you can see in the second part of the training after the break, where you can see how many new features the customers can use with the latest version of the RIP, right? Here below you can see the production tools. described. So bleed grommets, watch books, specialty inks, layout tools sometimes might be used. The only difference, as you can see with a subscription model, is that we don't upgrade if there is a need for a to build additional functionalities with Lite and Go Plus. So it's not possible. Then if a customer really needs productivity with level 2, 3 printers, then she'll have to opt in for Thrive, this system. Then we have our flagship model, flagship product, what we can say, as you can see, Thrive, which is a solution. What does it mean? It's a scalable server to client software, which I'll show the examples shortly. Here you can see only one license. There are already 4 RIPs, 2 job editors, and 2 printers level 1 to 3. So and for Thrive, we have additional features and functionalities, as you can see, as production manager, ONYX Hub, color checked, ONYX Connect, which we'll cover in a slide. Plus, for true automation, you can connect ONYX in. So you can see ONYX Thrive will give much more options for the print shop that really require a control over the production. As you can see, production manager and hub, about color consistency with color check, and also the full automation with other services that are already available in the print shop, which we will touch later. I mean, other services like MIS systems, ERP, CRM. So what's the scalability, right? As you saw, the poster shop and rip center production house will drive from one PC, will do all the things on one PC, right? So sometimes might be for the bigger print shop, which already has like 4, 5 machine, might be a bit problematic, as sometimes job editing might be done in the different place. There might be a graphic designer who will be doing. And so printers like UV or bigger printers are in a separate room, and they do not require any special adjustment of the jobs, right? Because it's being done in one place, only kind of a production manager, so to say. So in order to relieve the PC, right, and not to overburden it and do all the options in one place and create bottlenecks. So because someone has to create a job to edit a job, then he has to print, then he has to stop a printer, then if someone confuses it, then there may be a problem. Then we can share the services, right? So as a beginning example, you have already seen the example, but for those who are new to the training, so here is the basic configuration, right? So all the functionalities are being driven from one PC. So this might be hectic for a PC if this is not a decent machine, right? Especially if you have large format, grand format printers like 3.2 or 5 meters machines, then you probably know already how big the files might be, if they are like 20 meters long, or if the nesting is like 30 or 15 meters long. It takes a long time to process it and send it to printer, etc. Right? And if you do it from one PC, because the printers are connected to the one PC, then it might be crazy, the bottlenecks, right? So in order to release it, right, to make it simpler, right, we can share and split the functionalities and options to different PC, right? So as you can see here, one PC, additional PC, will drive just 2 big printers, and then as you can see later, part of the job for smaller printers will be done on another PC. This is also useful for the bigger print shops that have big print plant where the printers are located all over the plant, and there are a few printer operators that take care of just printing and overall in maintaining the printers, whereas the job editing and ripping takes place maybe in another room. But for you, it's important when you especially when you do, for instance, conversion from a few different RIP solutions to one ONYX, to discuss with the customers and to map the production where the customer, and obviously advise, because sometimes customers will say, oh, okay, let's put it on one PC and that's it, because they just don't know what are the functionalities they can really do, right? So you as the technicians are the ones to advise the customers that they can share the services in order, I mean, like printing, job editing, in order to avoid the bottlenecks on production. And especially if it's a print shop that is growing with you, you can advise it and you can map the processes even in an existing printer. Sometimes it's will be good if you do kind of an audit of the current processes, because nowadays, as you can see, the printers are getting more robust and more reliable, and customers are looking for except of the cost saving, customers are looking to be more efficient and more automated. Then it can be done with a RIP, but then this is you who have to map the processes, right, and see how you can improve. Mm. Okay, and the Thrice gives you unique, if you compare it with Rip Center and the Poster Shop options. As production managers, there is already kind of we could say as notion of automation efficiency, because it gives the control not only from the PC on which uh, the job is being printed, but also externally, right? So someone who is doing supervision on the print shop can see already connect with the IP from the consumer IP number, which is showing the control, can connect and see already what's going on the RIP, and additionally can drop the files, change the quick set, submit the file, rotate file, change the job tickets for a RIP and a production. How to use it? When we go to the RIP, I will show in the console, but in the bottom right corner where you have console, there is an IP address, and if you put it in the web browser, you will get the production manager that you can play with it already, which will be useful if there are a couple a few machines, right? For one machine might not be the best solution. Then we have some additional tool which is very useful, especially nowadays when the customers are seeking for a control over production, and not only from the RIP itself, right? As you probably have seen, the customers already have MIS systems. They they have the systems to run production, to place the orders, to send the orders, right? But the hub will give the exact data taken from the RIP and from the jobs that were printed as sent to Thrive. So this is a real data, and what customers can get from RIP itself. And you might ask, okay, so what's the value? So basically, we try the customers to avoid the guessing, right? Nowadays one of the most important is data, right? From data they can improve the business, they can find the bottlenecks, they can find the spots there where they lose the money and where they can improve. Who is it for? um, Preferably plant managers, supervisors, and also the owners. That also might be to ONYX Hub might be useful for even for smaller plants, but for the customers who would like to have the bigger control over the print shop, whereas not necessarily staying inside the print shop. As you have noticed, the application will work also on the mobile devices and the tablet Mac OS. So because usually when a job is done, someone has to manually press and finish the job, and it input the details um, in a separate either Excel spreadsheet or a software. Here, a customers can take the data directly from the RIP and do report right on the usage, weight, in consumption, etc. So with aggregated data. We do also have the color check tool, which I'll show you in the hands-on, so to say, session, which is for those who like to. Sorry for that. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. For those who want to be consistent with the color, right? It will generate a report and say if the color which is being printed based on the swatch book check is consistent with the chosen standard, like G7, FOGRA, ISO coated, right? So those plants who really need to print proper color, like you have IKEA, Coca-Cola, right? They have their logo books with color matching, and the delta for this color has to be really, really, really low. And it's usually when in a job with color printed from IKEA or Coca-Cola, which is the easiest for you to compare with. They will simply require the color to be the exact one. Otherwise, they can sometimes even probably reject and refuse an order, right? We do also have still available a old, which is not the best way to describe it, but we have a process which has been with ONYX for already some time already, which can automate data swap between the application and Thrive through the JDF system. So basically, the JDF, the file, the JDF format will gather the information and will simply send it to Thrive. And in the RIP, when the file is being printed, will resend the information back to the customer application. For instance, you have here, you can put here data line and multi-press, which is already kind of an obsolete solution, as we already moved to proper API, so to the proper interface and the plugin, in order to connect the services. So still in use, still there are customers who are looking at the JDS, that will rather show the options that are available with Sync, which you briefly have the description here as this as an API connecting existing services on site. So this will be covered in the second part, which I've already spoken with some of you. you can see the request from the customer to automate production, especially dedicated for the customers who would like to connect the existing systems in the system in the print shop. As you can see, ERP, CRM, MIS system, in order to get more efficient and more automate. This will cover later. There will be a presentation in with a few slides. So after we do the hands-on session in a couple of minutes, we will cover also the automation. Right? You you have the as this was pretty brief, right? Because that was the briefly to describe the products which we have available, and because we are here to do the stuff with RIP itself. Just would like to kindly request you to remember that these are the tools that will be useful for you in a daily work. So basically, the web key lookup will show you, remind you to see what's on the key. License viewer available for the soft license, and ONYX compatibility, which also is useful if you don't know if there is a poster shop or Thrive which you need for a customer, right? Depending on the level of the printer. And there is a kind of a tool which might be sometimes useful to see if you are online and a customer has a problem, and you're not sure if a customer took off the dongle from the system, because it might happen that you do the remote support, which is most often for the software. Might happen that you require customer to take off the dongle from the server for Thrive or from the PC, and then if you're not sure, you just type in the browser the localhost 1947, and it will give you all the Sentinel hashkeys that are already in use. Then you can say, hey, Mr. Customer, there is this dongle still plugged in, maybe an old one, especially plugged in somewhere in the server. Because sometimes, customers, operators might not know, might not be familiar, and they will tell you that the dongle is will tell you something else, and then you might struggle, right? As ONYX web key, we used to have also, there is also available for the older versions. You have the a sort which is what's on my key, but it's not already used anymore. And it's also a license viewer, which we will see shortly, right? So now we can go briefly through the presentation of the installation and the theoretical part of the installation, and then we will go to RIP. And we will do kind of a so to say hands-on training with RIP itself. Right? So one of the most important thing, and sometimes neglected a little bit, is the hardware specs, right? You have to be sure that you have the minimum hardware specs, so because otherwise you will simply struggle, right? If you have not enough memory, if you not have the decent PC, and if your customer will tell you, hey, I have already a PC which is on site, please be careful, right? Because then you might really have a problem, especially if there is a Windows Home. It sometimes might really happen that you might have a problem, and then the customer will eventually blame you, right? Because you install the software and you advise, right? What the specs should be, right? So you can see CPU cores of the number of the RIP instances. So it's just one core per RIP. Memory 16 giga. Obviously, we recommend more, right? 4 giga per RIP engine. And what is important, the resolution, right? This is sometimes when the customers will give you, oh, I have a screen on site, can we use it? And sometimes the resolution might be different. And if it's lower than that, you might not be able to click a functional function because it will not show up on the screen. And this is it. It happened to me like during installation of the software. I couldn't simply follow the installation as I couldn't scroll down and click the confirm or next button, right? So this is also important, especially if customer tries to give you some older equipment, right? And the HDD space 200 giga, it's recommended. So please pay attention to hardware specification, as it will help you, and it will save sometimes your day. And also, it's worth mentioning when you do and when you discuss with a customer, when you're on site and customer has an old RIP like version 12, even 11, you probably can see on the market. And if a customer is interested and you discuss about the new features and the customer would like to update, you also please be careful, as it might be tricky, because some customer will might try to install the RIP on the low on the old machine, right? Which might lead to a disaster, right? Because you can imagine if a customer will try to give you okay, not talking about Windows 7, but Windows 10, but the machine which is already a few years old, you really might struggle with a broken DLL libraries on the PC, and some functionalities might not really work, right? So this is something to you have to check with the customer. So except of updating the RIP, you have to consider updating the hardware. Otherwise, again, it might be a kind of a, how to say it, a landmine for you, which can rip off your leg. So yeah, installation, any backup, especially if there is a previous version on a PC. If you install a new one, it's pretty straightforward, right? You click, you just follow the installation wizard, and the RIP itself, in most of the cases, will guide you through the installation process, which is pretty straightforward. But if there is an old RIP, especially which you will update, you'll probably need to back up old drivers and old settings. So in that case, you have a few options available. You can either, which is the most common and most correct way to export a printer driver, as it will include all the necessary settings, all the settings including media libraries, profiles, quickset, archive jobs, custom spot color tables, etc. Right? Or if you don't want to do it, you can only export quicksets, media profiles, OMLs, and then you import in the new software, right? As you uninstall and if you install the RIP, there is an option to back up the existing profile. So you can also use that option, which is in the installation wizard, which is available. I show you where is it, right? So please do remember, when you install the RIP, please register the RIP itself in to my ONYX. Please request the customers. Please request them to create their own account, right? So this is later for them easier to follow up on the license. They register as an end user. They will receive additional information, newsletters, and this will also help you to to notify the customers of the new functionalities that we release only during the updates. And please do not do it on your account, because I know some of you might try to register the RIP on your own technician's account, but this is for the customer eventually, right? So this preferably to a customer. You can guide it, you can guide a customer, you can do it with him, but please do it on his email. So we'll focus mostly on Thrive, as this is the RIP is works in server to client, so to say, functionality. So you can install only job editing workstation and on one workstation, or you can, as you have seen in the previous slide, you can install print only or print forwarding PC separately, right, to make the production more efficient. As you can see, the Thrive works in the rule first come, first save. So the first PC which starts the license will take it. So if you have one job editor available, and the customer will use it, and the customer will open it on one PC, and then there is another one on the production, and if he starts and tries to open the job editor, it will not work, as the previous one took the service, right? So you have to remember about it. And if need be, you can configure what I will show you. You can configure the number of the RIPs and assign the number of RIPs for each print station in the general settings in the configuration. Here, as for the RIP permissions, you can see obviously the network license manager for the soft key or license manager for the dongle will tell you how many active printers or how many RIPs you can use generally in total, right? So here you can change the number of the RIPs if there is PC that will be using only 6 you can change it. You can decrease the remaining, you can decrease the number of the RIPs here, so the other station can use it. You can see print forwarding. If this is only a print forwarding PC, it will not use the RIP instances, right? So it will not take the RIP active RIPs if this is just print only station, right? Because you generally cannot do any RIP on the print forward or station. So just to notify, and before you start installation, you check the hardware specification, the setup, discuss it with the customers, what you really want to obtain, what is the best settings for the customer for the production. Yes, it might happen that the customer will say, I have 3 machines, I'd like to run them from one PC, including the CAD server. Okay, it's up to customer to try to discuss it, how to make it, especially with Thrive, how to make the customer more efficient, right? Because then after a couple of months, he will appreciate, and then you'll avoid complaint, right? So complaining that he has the bottlenecks and something slows down. See if you will have separate where will you have hot folders, which I'll show, which are very, very important here. Job submitting and the hot folders are really important for the automation, which you can already apply without providing the customer with super expensive softwares, and the customers will be really grateful for that, which I will show you shortly. See if there will be any workstation additional. Remember to set up the system restore and backup functionality. this is in order to, I guess it's okay until it works, right? When there is a, so to say, a cock up, you and system crashes totally, then now I'm talking about a separate options, right? Like Windows system restore, or a for instance, a RAID, whichever you use, separate external third-party service to back up the soft, right? Because then it's easier to restore it, right? Can understand that for a small shop that it's not the case, probably, to prepare a RAID and mirror of the disk, right, to replace it. But especially for a bigger site where the time is money, right? And you know what happens if you have a breakdown on a printer, right? Doesn't matter if a customer has one printer, two printers. And the same with the software, right? If he has the two or three printers, and then the software is down, you can imagine what can happen, right? So nowadays, you probably know, when you order something online, and when you place the order and pay, especially, right, you already start track and trace the shipping, right? And where is it? So if the production is down because of the software, then you might struggle, right? Especially if you don't do backup, which is, as I'm saying, very, very important. If you don't do the backup, you can get step in a big trouble. Because especially if you have a custom-made ICC configurations, right? Because as mentioned earlier, for some of the printers, on the genuine ink, you already have the profiles available online, right? And if it's a Canton printer like HP or Epson, you can get you can restore the system pretty fast, right? Especially if the customer uses this standard configuration. But if it's a UV printer, as like, for instance, you have tailored custom made profiles, for instance, hand top or EFI, or any other bigger solution which requires uh, your ICC configuration, then you really better back up. Once you back it up, you will stay always on the safe side. You can do it. You can back it up on in the customer's on the customer server. You can do it, offer it as additional service from your company to the customer, to the end users, chargeable, obviously, that you will store the data, and you will be doing a server backup or system setting backup uh, every quarter or half a year for a customer, just to avoid some problems in the future. Then before you start installation, if it's Drive, you remember to choose the location of the license key. It can be a server, or it can be a PC which is connected to the network, which you will choose as the main one, right? And then, if when you run the installer wizard itself, then it will guide you somehow to say, if it's a standard installation, it will guide you. It will see if there is a dongle already installed. The installer itself will check and see if you can find any soft or dongled version already on the PC, right? So yeah, here are some important things, especially for the users that are on the Windows 10, right? With Windows 11, I've noticed, with Windows 11 Pro, we are talking about, you don't have that many problems as we used to have. You probably know, on Windows 10, right? So user account control, which you have to set up to never notify. Always use administrator user, right? Disable antivirus, and attach USB license if it's a dongle version. The first one on the list is rather for the Windows 10 users, some of you might remember that if you have a user account control, some of the functionalities might not run on ONYX, or ONYX itself might not start on Windows 10 Pro. Administrator users, right? This is also very important for the Windows 10. You can probably recognize it when you open configure printer. Then you can see, or you will not see, the functionalities, and the tabs will be missing, which is also important. And sometimes if there is you are not an administrator user, right, you cannot access the network folders. So this is mainly for the Windows 10, and the first one, right? Disabling antivirus, yes, it is important, as you probably all before the installation. Okay, then after the installation you turn it on, but then please do remember to set up exception on the thrice and the ONYX folders which you will be using, because if there are a lot of files, different files flying in and out, then the antivirus might block the RIP itself. And here you do be careful, because you probably know if there is a kind of a blockage on antivirus, especially on the older systems, then you again might struggle, and might be hectic to get rid of a problem. Here, as you can see, first of all, the installation wizard will extract the files. You just click follow the wizard. As you can see, this is the screen from the Polish version, as I use the Polish version of the Windows. But for those who use the a different language, there are the installer will start already in English or Italian or French. If you follow it up, you have instruction manuals. So the installation wizard is pretty straightforward, right? Nowadays you probably do the installation. These are the installation wizard is kind of a, not to brag about it, but it's so easy that you can guide the customer online. Everyone can do it. For more complex installation, you probably like to do it on your own, but I mean, talking about peripheral PCs like print only, RIP only. So basically, then after extracting the files, you just choose the HDD. And at this stage, which might happen if you already have the drivers, if you do new installation and you have backup, you can from the old version, and you have pre-installation file of a printer, you can already drop it here, and the wizard will let you install immediately the driver at this stage, or later you can download the proper one if you don't know, and install it separately on the next stage, right? Then remember the registration, which will pop in on the first when you first time open the ONYX itself. You will have a small window which will request you to register the license. For those who have the Canton printers like Epson, you'll probably have a dashboard which where you have to input the machine serial number. And for those who do HP, there is a related connection of the machine, as you can you can swap the profiles between the printer and the RIP, and if you download a profile from the cloud like Epson, sorry for those if I focus too much on Epson, but sometimes it's pretty similar, and I have some also experience with that one, but probably the HP is more or less pretty much the same. If you have a profile which is in the cloud, it will be then installed. You download it to from the cloud, and then you install it in ONYX itself, right? If you push it to RIP, right? So you can either download it here, right, or from the Absolute or HP's cloud, right? For those who have better experience with HP, then you follow the specific settings of the printers, right? Because as you know, there are generally the standard settings, and for the users are pretty much the same, except maybe for those like Canton, HP again, HP and Epson that have some a little bit different settings that you might need to dive into on your own during if you have a machine, so I presume which is the case, you have a demo machine on your demo, which you can venture even more and play around with it, right? As here we'll be covering mostly the general ideas and the options functionalities, right? And to dive in, you can do it on your own. So here you have the print only workstation. And this is what's been mentioned. You remember to set up the RIP used by the station to 0. Why is that? Because it's only print forwarding station, and if you have RIPs here, you might not have enough instances on the basic one, right, where the RIP itself is and which does the RIP and ripping. Generally, the queue will look the same, as you can see, but from that queue you can only send a job to print. So you can't do any amendments. You can't change the you cannot rotate, change number of copies, etc., because it will not read the file. So you can only send to print. Print forwarding station, which will copy from one generally the one file from one PC to another one. So during the installation, you will set up the print forward station and a particular settings you will choose. There is a small misspell, configure printer as a print forward. So when you add a printer during installation, let's say it's Epson on top, sure color. This is pretty old one, but yeah, let's say it's an Epson sure color. Then when you choose whether it's a TCP/IP or a print to file option, then you just use print forward. And then you select it from the, if it's not on the list here, you just browse it and then try to add it and look for it manually. Please do remember that when you try to do it, the RIP has to be connected to the internet, right? It's important, right? And again, the job editing station. Here you have, as you can see, and previously, here are the options which you choose if you like to install the a particular job, a particular functionality. I mean, the service. So in this case, it's job editor. And when you install job editor, you can also manage the printers. Here's how it looks like in the 22.5. This is a screenshot from my Thrive workstation, and then you can simply add it, right? And this is as you will hear, they will not be plain as with such installation options, as this is there are no options for me to show you, as there is only one PC from which I do which I do the training, and I have just one license from one PC. But I strongly advise you, if you already have customers who have bigger plans, who have more machines than 2, like 3 or more machines, and you know that these options might be useful, you play around at your demo. connect to the network. You have the probably demo machines with hardwares aside, so you can play by yourself and see how to do it. Generally, the wizard, if the network is properly set up, sometimes you might need an IT at the customer side to check the ports and what ports are available for you, and to give you credentials to access the other servers or PC. But generally, the wizard is pretty straightforward and guides you step by step what to do. Right? Here, as you can see the options list, right? Here we will stop for a moment. As you can see, the checkbox is can be either white or grayish, kind of like. Here you do be careful, because sometimes when you do, especially reinstall of a software, it happens that some of these components are, and it's not the menu is not showing all the options here, right? It's on plus, like here, like shortcuts. This means that some of the functionalities are not checked in. If either you or a customer do complete reinstall of a RIP because something happened, you always see if the checkbox are here. Otherwise, after reinstalling the RIP, these functions and these functionalities might disappear. So it happened quite a few times that a customer tried to do reinstall or repair a RIP only, though these options were not ticked, and then they all disappeared, and the customer finished the installation properly, and he couldn't run the RIP itself because it was not even the drive component. I mean, like RIP print workstation was not in the start menu. There was no shortcut, etc. And if I clicked plus here, I could see that some of the checkbox, I presume the job editors in this case, will be only with the checkbox mark, and the others will be empty. So please be careful, especially when you do repair, to do the checkbox. And also in the repair, that you have option below to do the backup of the existing devices, right? So yeah, so now let's move forward from the theoretical part, which is always kind of be slow. We can say we are just about talking. Let's do the proper hands-on. So before we start, if you install the RIP, you might need a printer itself, right? So we usually recommend to download it from Printer Manager, or during the installation process you can do browse and find on your PC. But on the Printer Manager, just give me a second here, you'll have the latest drivers and the best drivers which you can have without any issues and problems. So then you can see, you choose the version of the RIP. Then let's pick a as you can see, we have quite a lot of them, but for most of them you'll have kind of a generic profile, which you can see. Let's see something else of the most common which you do. Like we have hand up, you pick a machine right here, you will see some generic profiles that you can use, right? Because for except of the, let's call them, right, don't make me wrong, branded printers like HP, Epson, Mimaki, Muto, we have some already knowledge base and the library of the ICC profiles, which we have from the printer manufacturers. For some of them we have in the color base. I'll show you. And but for those printers, usually from China, like Gongzeng, like Hantop, it's rather a driver which is assigned to the electronics used by the printer, print heads, and available resolution, right? So if you have an example Hantop HT 1610, which is the typical flatbed, then you can, with the R Ricoh print heads, then you could use it also on roll-to-roll machine, right? Because anyway, the driver will output a file, PRN file, as far as I remember, PRN with which will anyway be dropped to an additional software, which also happens for the EFI, ACFA printers, etc. Right? And note those that are directly driven from the RIP station, like for instance, let's see here, Epson, where is it? Yeah, as you can see, you have quite a lot of the drivers which you decide which to download. You have 9 colors, 860 is a including white. I'll be repeating the same drivers as they were covered in the previous certification training, if it's easier for you to understand, especially if there is a white included. And just a remark from myself, I have the fresh Windows 11 Pro from February, and my user account control UAC, which I mentioned, is on the medium level. I haven't had so far any issues while using the RIP itself. So with Windows 11, we are already getting better. And for you, it's also the customers will get more efficient, obviously, right? Windows 7 is not anymore supported, so in case of any problems, you can say sorry, not supported, etc. What happens more and more often, right? Especially if customer is on an old version like 12 on 11, and shortly that will be version 18, right? When we have here version 20, 23, you will not be able to get any drivers from the download manager, right? Because these versions will not be supported anymore. So sometimes might not be satisfied, but hey ho, that's what you can always see what happens with the phone manufacturers, right? And the electronics manufacturers, right? They don't support devices, right? It's all about the growing all together, right? Because you might probably assume that some of the customers would stay on the old printer and old PC for 4 or 5 years, but it's not the case, right? Not providing them with the latest technology will leave your business also behind, right? If they don't invest, that meaning that they're not growing your business eventually, right? So just keep in mind and accept of the just technical part, which quite often you do, and you strongly focus nowadays. I think we should, as you are in the field, right? You see the production, and you can see what's really going on. You as technician, product specialist, you ask different question than the sales guys, right? And you can see what are the real problems which we try to solve as a providing a particular solution. But anyway, coming back, which I'll be mentioning during the training. So we have a general profile, which you can see there is only one. There is a precision dot, and then this will be a canton driver, meaning that all the settings are being done in the printer, right? This is what happens in the HP. Yeah, obviously you can create your own half-tone ICC profile for the spatial needs if you really want. though these profiles are already good and will save your time. So those who, though I probably presume you already know and you use it, and it's pretty straightforward. You just open the dashboard, so we can save drivers. Let's give it a few minutes. Anyway, let me save this because we could go to the drivers, which I already, as you can see, have the drivers here downloaded, various printers. It's good. Yep. Done. Let's do you have refresh? Okay. So you can see I have the driver. As a matter of fact, this can be closed already. So let's say we have the RIP itself installed. We have the profile downloaded. So now we can do the installation, and then you can see what will happen. Because I already have that, just to let you know, I already have the machine in the system. You see that what happens if you see the red, meaning that the printer is already installed, whereas this one is not. So this will be a brand fresh installation, and this one will be second. And the windows which you can see here, if you do a fresh installation and there are no printers, then you will have, then the window will pop up immediately. You will not get into the RIP itself without any printer installed, right? Even a generic one. So the Windows itself, okay, it's in Polish, but in the RIP will be in English. The window will pop in immediately. And if I click here, download from the manager, it will direct me to the printer download manager, which we've just been to. So we can do it. There are a couple of ways which you can do. You can do it either here, or if you know the particular drivers which you want to download, and there are more than just one, you can go to download manager as we did, right? It's up to you to choose the correct method, the way of to process the driver installation. Because if you have what's been taught, if you already have a driver because it's been back up, you can already do it also during the installation in the wizard, right? So let's see what will happen. Oh, let me see. You can do it here, right? Because the printer installation you can do also here, right? So you can install the beta drivers. So what will happen if I click install, right? It gives you options, right? I'll just translate it. It's easier. And that is either a new printer, which you can name, or you can update the driver and update the driver, right? So if you do it, if you click OK, it will either ignore the copy or change the copy and change the name of the substrate, right? So you can either create a new one if you want to, if you have two options, right? You do a new printer, which is, you can say new one, right? And it will install it as a new printer driver, or update the new one, right? And as for the update of the drivers, you can do it either here, or it's being done automatically, which I will show you just in a couple of minutes. I will not be installing because I don't need it right now. Just to remember if it's red, meaning that it's already installed, right? So now yeah, and this, as you probably noticed, that was in Polish user account control, right? And this doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stop my the using of ONYX. So yep, it is demo key, which you are presume most of you are familiar with. You have the number of the days. If they go below, I think it's for example 10, it's when then you'll see the reds in the RIP itself. Then you can already see on what's going on, right? Here you have the license manager, which will start the RIP, and here is what you can see is on the key, right? And here you have the new feature. The new printer version is available, so we could you see the current version is 1909, and the new one is it's a generic driver, general one, 2919. So we can update it. I'll skip it for the moment. Just wanted to show you how does it work, so you can do it automatically in the RIP, right? What's also worth mentioning here, because it's a part of the installation process, for those who install the soft license in the wizard, the first window, because when you install the dongle version, you'll be prompted to install the husky drivers, and when you install the license, you'll be asked on the first window to activate the license, right, before you can follow the installation. So when you have the long code, you can activate you do activation on the installation on the first window. But here what's worth mentioning, when you are in the network license manager, when you do an update, when you update the license for your customer, because he updates to the new version, then you have the options here to update. This is update we'll say in English. Unfortunately, it is always in Polish, even though the RIP is in English. But here you have update the license. You can choose it here. We send the when you purchase and when you receive the update, you will get the file and a quick manual, just as a reminder that you have to go. So do not refresh the license. If there is an update, you go here to update and click update the license, and if the update is available, you can do it, right? And for the dongle version, if you click to update the license, you will probably, some of you remember that you have the another small update wizard, which will check on the server if the license is available, and then you can do the installation. It might happen that sometimes, even if a customer is in a current Advantage care package, you might not find an update for the customer. Then please do send the request to either one of the TSMs, right, or to the tech support directly. Sorry, to the sales, not tech support, that the update content is missing. Then we can fix it for you. And what is also important, please, if you have a problem, there is a case which you try to solve, please log case with you, always with the tech support. And for the troubleshooting guide, it's easier for everyone to have any case which you cannot simply solve, to log it in, and then to do it with tech support, right? If you have connection problems, or you can't if you have some tiling issues, right, which a customer cannot fix, and you don't really know how to do it, sometimes it's better not to struggle on your own. I know you all guys are busy, right, with the day-to-day job, and it might be hectic for you, if especially, you know, for you, you have some kind of a basic knowledge on where are the functionalities, where do you do it, right? But if you don't don't work with the daily basis, you might not remember, right, which is normal, which happens, right? If how to fix a kind of a strange, quirky tiling problem, which I'll show you shortly, right? So basically, just briefly, so you have the functionalities available. The difference between RIP Center and Poster Shop you'll have here. So in the RIP Center, no swatchbooks, no color check, no media manager, no layout. So these tools are not available. OpenHP, is it because I have HP installed, right? Try to install a couple different machines, right? We won't be going through all the options and functionalities. As you probably know, Moodle is different, HP, some settings are different, are dependent on the driver and on the options. We'll cover the basic of what you can do, right? And then with poster shop, you already get layout to media manager if it's a full one. If it's limited, no media manager available, right? You have swatch books, any color check which is available with, right? But there is one thing which you have to be worried about. This is available. Color check plus hub is available for those who are on the advantage gold care package, right? So if a customer is interested in hub, please tell the customer that this is part of the care package service contract for the customer, and this is gold, right? So you want to, if you want to use it, right? So we have the console, which I have already mentioned. Here is my IP address, which if I click into the browser, I can use, I can start the production manager. Here the general settings preview, quick sets, and drag and drop, which is a part of the workflow, which we'll go deep into, right? So for the printers which you have here, this is the list of the printers ready to print jobs, and all the queue we can save. We can't call it as archive as with version 22.5, which I'll tell you a little bit more. We already have a proper archive, so you don't have to store the jobs here, right? In the past years, if there was a problem with a file which got stuck with the RIP, you could change the status of the file, and you can buffer it and save it from the by changing the name of the file, which I can show you if we go as an example to what I'm talking. If we go to the drive, anyhow, drive. Just system. So you have input folder here. In essence, so basically all the files that are in the job has a status waiting or buffered, then you can change it. So you can't do it. So is it very specific mingling with the files? So I presume that's not what you want the customer to do. Only in the very special cases when the file got stuck here with busy, and you don't want to remove the files that are in the work folder, right? You go here, right? So you can see it's buffer, and if a file gets stuck with a BC, you can already edit and change it to archive, for instance, and it will drop down here, right? Only I think it's something what you know we can be done, right? Like here, job there's job preview waiting to print. You can do it, but not usually. If it goes okay, if there's a decent PC, fresh PC without broken DLS, it usually not happens, right? And then if you change be careful, because if it's here busy, saying busy, like this, and then you change to archive, and it will go down, drop here to the buffered area. Again, if you reload it, you might have some problems. So if that's not the most important job the customer is doing currently, I would rather say it's safer to delete it and simply reopen the file, right? And for the files that are here, we don't need to archive them already, as we can do it in a proper archive separately, right? So you will not be any more growing, for those who will be on the latest version, you will not be growing the very long archive queue here, which customers used to do it here, right? Yes, it's inconvenient. You cannot search. So as part of the automation, right? Let's move forward and see how to do with the open file. And yes, for the repeats and for the workflow, you have a couple of options nowadays with ONYX how to simply open the file, right? Some of the customers might prefer to use the typical way, which you have the click open file. I'll use the driver plus here, which is a generally file to just to use the quick sets, which I have already done. Then a customer can choose the quick set. If it's, for instance, a banner, then he clicks the file, right? Okay, and then you can either open it directly if it's a quick set settings are made, so we can either complete it and send it to the queue, or open job editor, make copies, rotate, mirror. These options can be done also in the quick set, right? So it's one way which you normally can do, but as a part of the workflow, you can also drag and drop a file directly to the queue, right? So if I have my printer driver plus, I have my quick settings. So because some customers might need a notion of automation that they can really do, right? There is someone who will uh, like to drop a file with the current settings. Now you can see the app engine, which is now in all the products which we supply, how you can see, and it applied all the quick settings options, right? Not cutter, but you can see there are some options which we'll cover here. So the app PDE app engine, which is also with Rip Center and the poster shop. Now we used to have JAWS, which is not anymore. Now with the latest version, the engine is 6.1, which is also important. Someone will say, okay, but what's the difference? Yes, there is a difference. An example is a customer of mine gave me a test of a map made of vectors, right? And he said, okay, I have my ONYX 18.5 or 18, and it's the only RIP where I can open a file, which anyway will take like 8 to 9 hours, because the map was big with a lot of vectors, you can imagine. And with the latest version, I took a glove and said, well, okay, let's try, and took only 35 or 40 minutes, right, to open such file, right? So you can see there is already a difference. No, the customers quite often don't see it, but it's something what they cannot pay for. It's the time, right, nowadays. So you as it being on site, you can see where the bottlenecks and where is the waste the customers have time, and then eventually money, right? Some tedious jobs they can do. What I like to tell you, which you can already apply even a smaller shop, which is a on poster shop, and which is only even like 2 machines, right? And you can already apply a notion of automation, right, with the input folders, which is very important, as because as told, we have we had just two ways to how to open a file, right? So now we'll do it even more automatic way, right? Because we just dropped a file which is already pretty faster than from the standard way, which we do, right? I strongly advise you to sometimes go deeper in the input folders and check with the customers that you can really do nice stuff and make customers' life easier with input folders, which we all quite often forget about. As you know, quite you don't have time, you have your jobs, you have to just install it, and it's just only rip, right, to create the jobs, right? But making the customer, you can make the customer satisfied with some very easy options and tricks which you don't have to spend much time, right? So when you already have a quick set, which we will do shortly, with some particular settings, because most of the jobs which you use are pretty standard, right? You have either banner, you have a vinyl self-adhesive with which there is a cut path, and there are some stickers, like there are posters, etc. So these jobs they repeat, right? They might have different dimension, but generally the settings are pretty much okay, and the same, sorry. And you have the canvases, etc. So for the customer, if there is a graphic designer who has the access to the hot folder, then the printer operator is more effective, but he will or she will be just printing and can do some additional things like maintenance or do some other stuff, especially in the small print shop where the manpower is limited. But to show you, I'll just drop a file to an input folder, and bam, it is here. Just imagine that the folder which I showed to you, the input folder, is available in the network for a person who really prepares the file. So if a file is here, and it will be a banner with the grommets every 20 or let's say 50 centimeters, right? An operator will not have to apply, will not have to open, will not the tedious job can be done somewhere else, right? And this is important because you can apply this notion of automation, especially for the small customers, right? And they will really appreciate. Though, please remember that you have to some analyze what the customers print, right? Because then you have to prepare the quick sets or change it, and then you can excel and get better along with the customers, right? So what we have now, so we are already have started the printing, right? So we have some customers will use quick sets, some of them will do the default one. It also happens they just take the media size from the machine, and but it all depends on the customers, right? So here, obviously, this is hot not a good example. Okay, let's do for the Epson. You can see the media already from the machine. You can choose it, which also have, if you have a default quick set, right? Or even if you have the additional options, here you have the option what's going on, where the media, and if it's a half-ton printer like HP, Epson, you'll get media page size from the printers. From the other machines, right, half-ton, you'll probably have a profile which you pick here and use, right? If you change here the current media page settings, if it's not a half-ton printer, you'll be setting it manually, so these options might change. And this is sort of the difference. I strongly advise you to create a new quick set, right? Some customers will work on the default, but then it will create bottlenecks, right? As I'm saying, the jobs will repeat, right? So for all these settings can be custom tailored to the customer's need. So if we do have a particular job or a customer which we like to do, we rather will create a quick set to be open, right? So if we go to printer configuration, as this is the here you edit the current settings, right? And for the printer configuration, here you have the list of the quick sets, right? Here you can start creating a new quick set, there are two ways. You can either, which we will do shortly, do a job editor and then prepare some settings that are especially visually easier to control, or you can create a new quick set, right? With a particular, if we don't, with here it's a white only. But if you have more ICC profile configuration, let's say white and got. So you can add a cutter, for instance, if you have stickers that will be printed on the clear media, and then you send them to the Summa graphical or any other cutting machine. Let's put it on the Summa S series, right? So it will include already, and it will prepare the cut paths for that particular jobs that will be open in that quick set, right? You can already set up the size of the file. I presume most of you will set it up as a default. Sometimes if a file is big, right, the graphic designer will scale it 1 to 10, for instance. It doesn't happen quite often, right? But you can already set up number of copies, rotated mirror, which might be a case for the dye-ink sublimation, for instance, right? And also some additional option is for cutting, which we'll cover a little bit later, right? Here, if you click Advanced, you can see that you have some options which you can use, like step and repeat. I'll show you shortly in the job editor. If you're already more familiar, we can do it here. You can change it. You can set up it here. So I presume for most of the cases, you rather go into job editor and you add the number of tiling. Meaning, what is it for here, right? Meaning that, as you notice, I dropped a file to a quick set, and the quick set apply all the particular options that are here. So if I choose a bleed here, which I'll show you, the file will have bleed, grommets, etc. So this is the automation which you can already do, and which you normally do with the customers, right? Instead of wasting customers' time, just always if they do tiling, because normally you have tiling is for a rather particular dimensions, right? And this is automatic, right? So it will divide in numbers of 2 columns, so you can we'll be doing it shortly, right? And then if we have the particle profile white and cut, we can create it, and here you also can change the page sizes as a new fresh installation. Will have only generic fixed page sizes, which you might need to go into, especially for flatbed printers. What you will need to might need to add more sizes of the table, like 1610, 32 by 20, etc. Right? So yes, please have a look in the page size, where you can see the available dimensions, right? In the media, you can export and download the OML, backup it, as we mentioned before. In the properties, you can change the input folder location for your purposes, right? It doesn't have to be on the C drive, so you can put it on the desktop, for instance, if it's available, shared in the network, easier for you to have a control of these automation. Sorry. And JDF setup, which will not focus right now, as is part of the to dive dig into ink calculation, which you can do, though be careful. You can do it only on the half-tone printer. You can't do calculation on the Contone printer, as the Contone does all the linearization and ink limitation is being done inside the machine. so you can really calculate it. As if you use halftone, you probably part of you know that if you create an ICC profile, you set up you set the levels of the ink limit channels, total ink limit. You do it on your own on each step, so the RIP can really calculate it, right? So that's the but for the Comtone it's not the case. You can also change the configure port from here, but normally you do it at the early stage. And as you can see, the dots turn to red, meaning that when you configure a printer, it will close, it will stop the server, right? It's always right. So let's see, right? See now the server is up again, right? Okay, I'll just skip it. I'll leave it for future purposes. So now let's do job editor, the functionalities which are available, and start the job editor, and it took some time. We'll go through the options. Any job editor is a place. Let me open a file the old-fashioned way, so to say, and then we can do it right on our one of our favorite files, which you know already, job editor. Okay, and you obviously can change the ticket here. You can change the tickets and the order number, etc. But this can be also done in smart job naming, which we'll do during the automation. Okay. Okay. So you for those, as you probably, this is a recertification, so most of you are familiar with most of the options available here, so we'll do them quickly as the time flies. So you can generally all the settings which you can see here are taken from the quick set, right? I open the default settings which have no options, just to show you how does it work, but we will just quickly open a ready-made, right? So it's when you set up a quick set and you want to see the changes, what happens, because visually it's easier, you can do it here, right? As you can see, the graph cutter section is already on. So if there is a cut path here, after being printed, the file will be sent to the cut server. Obviously, media group is being taken from the driver, so you can change it here, right? If you really need, but normally you don't do it, right? Because it's a matter of a preference, right? You can change the profiles, what is quite important, especially on the first installation, to have consistent profiles. And the profiles will have to be set up in the quickset, right? Because here, as you can see, this is US web coated swap and sRGB, which we normally, and you probably don't use in especially CMYK in Europe, right? Because it's this mainly, you can see it different shades of the and in different color on especially on the faces, right? We, due to the light, we perceive in a different way than they do in Japan, or that's why you have Japan web coated and you have Euroscale coated, because we perceive faces different. So if you print the same file with the input like US web coated, Euroscale or Fogra at Japan, you'll see the face is different. But this is what they perceive it, and the people in that regions, and they want to have it properly. So you rather we go to Fogra. If we change it, we can lose it, right? It's the Fogra, let's say 39 as an example, which we can still use it. It's the input folder, meaning how the RIP itself analyze the, so to say, colors, and then it's an input folder, input profile, right? Adobe RGB. So these are the proper settings which we normally use, right? or you can adjust them, because some of the print shops, if there is, especially if there is an offset related of this soft proofing, the soft proof might already come with the built-in embedded profile. And if there is an embedded profile, especially a soft proof, probably you would prefer to use the embedded one to stay on the same input that it was printed on the soft proofing. But you be careful, because you might have a totally different one, and then if you have use embedded and you normally use foreground, the outcome might be a little bit different from what you really want to obtain. So I suggest you discuss it with the customers, what is the flow of the job, especially if they use soft proofing. If not, then I presume you suggest to use the correct one, and then it changed to custom, and to have the list. I can do it right now. Here I can't do it, but normally in the quick set, this is grayed out here, but for the quick set and for the machine, you can save it as a, for instance, colors. Okay, so customer can always use the proper settings, because as you can see, there are some different, right? And the perceptual, and if you change it, it all will change the color, right? Probably not much, because you can't see it. It's just in the preview, which is a few DPI, so don't pay too much attention. Any for the PDFs, if it's a PDF with the multiple pages, you can see that the pages, you can open the PDF here. There will be an option. We'll open the file next one in to dive into a little bit more. Which which happens rarely as a wide format printers. They usually don't do the multi pages for the wide format printing, right? It's rather, most of the cases, these are just simple single files, right? And a preview site where you can do a crop. You can change the size, right? You can play with it, right? Change always with a tab, and you can see always if you we could change something, you do tab. We can here you can do a crop here, so you can, for instance, do the crop if you really need to crop a file. Here at ONYX, we use square shape, rectangular, right? But then you can use the crop. Yeah, you can see you can do the original, see what is the crop outside, right? And you go back, right? When you go back, right, you just quit. When you applied, it's already been trimmed off, so you will need to reopen the file again. So here you can change the rotated. So rotation can be done also as a part of the placement, which you can see. So you can do it, but if you use the automatic and conserve media, I mean the placement, then the RIP itself will do it automatically. Lock the crop size, meaning that it will would be locked in the same place. You can scale it, right? You can lock it. So I presume safer is to keep the size, or just don't save it. And let's see, is the latex. And I'll again open file. Fast moving car in the city. Yeah. Here, as you can see, there is no cut contour chosen. So if I don't use it, you see the settings are pretty much okay, in pretty much the same, even though the printer is different. But you can see that the PDF, if there is a number of PDFs here, you can choose either one or all, and the RIP, it will when you save it, send to print, it will separate the PDFs into the queue, right? Now, the functionalities which you can see here are the pattern, styling, color correction, finishing, and print, right? The patterns is a step and repeat available only for Thrive, only. You can add the option, which is if customer would like to apply it, you can sell to the customer this option, but normally as a default, it's a Thrive. The tiling and simple color collections you have also in the poster shop rip center, but then finishing tool is something for the poster shop, which we'll be briefly doing it right now. Patterns, it's dedicated a step and a repeat to create, as you can see, a full pattern, especially used for textile printing, dyed in sublimation. If you do one pattern, for instance, a curtain in one color, in one pattern, which will be repeated, and you can set up a gap between them. Yeah, the gap is in black right now, but you can all change the gap colors. First pixel, you can do white, as you can see here. Okay, you can do different settings according to your production needs. Flip an alternative, so you can see they will be mirrored one to each other, right? If you want to connect, depending on how you would like to connect them somewhere. If there should be a one pattern, right? We can, yeah, the gap here we can remove, right? First pixel, right? Custom. So this will create you a pattern which you then do on the long run length on the printer. So it's a tool available for the Thrive step and repeat colorways setup, right? Which you can set up some additional colors for that particular job, which is a part of the so to say, we don't have that much time on the recertification training, which can be covered in the technical training being done, especially dedicated session which will take longer, right? And precisely dig deep into venture into other functionalities. There's not much that time to do it. So mainly you will use the step and repeat, right? So you can change it. You can change the number, right? It will adjust to the size of the printer medias and here to the 60-inch roll, which you choose here, right? Which you can, if you change it to a wider roll, right? And then you go to patterns, you can stick even more patterns, right? This is in inches on top, right? The file is a bit too big, right? But the output size, you can see it's 1615, right? So it will add more and more until it fills in the maximum of the roll, width of the roll, right? Now, I'll just switch it off. Now we have tiling, which is commonly used, and which you can do it here, where you can create a number of tiles, rows, as you can see here. Custom tiles, number of tiles which you do normally, rows. You can, as the matter of fact, the file needs to be a bit bigger, right? So I'll just change it a little bit to make it a bit more easier to show you, right? So the file will be automatically divided. You can play with the number of tiles here, which you can include the bleed and the trim. So the files custom tile, you can send the number will automatically apply the file, so you can just go here. All right, you can have two more which you can play with. Then when you have all the files, yeah, you can reset them. When you have the custom files, right, the file is bigger, you simply can either create a separate tiles for each jobs. I'll not be playing too much, right? So you can also move it manually. Each tile can be adjusted, especially if you do not like billboard printing, but for instance, if you divide a job for a window, and then you have to have a particular size. Each can be, you see, custom made, custom size tile, so you can do it. Input the width here if you like to change it, and then you can either submit it as a job, or full complete job of all the tiles, or you can submit it as a separate job, right? The tile overlap, which you do here, you can just 30, right? So it will adjust. It will show you. It will add the tile, right? There is one thing which you have to take into consideration: a weld overlap options, which might be a bit tricky, because if you use it, then you might have an output which will look like, I'll show you, like this. So on the right hand side, you can see a tiling including an overlap, which is a 50 millimeters, right, with the marks, which is the same. The tiles are equal. But on the left hand side, you can see the weld overlap options. Right? You might have to be careful, especially if it's so that it moved, it shifted, right, the overlap a little bit. So it might be a bit tricky, because then you have to use the correct way to, the customer will have to use the correct way to stick it. So if there is such problem that he, oh, you see, I did a tiling and now I have to first do the left hand side, then the right hand side, and then in the middle, because otherwise the tile, the white overlap would stay in. Then you see if the customer is not possibly welding the overlap, which normally we don't use, right? It's to facilitate while sticking on a wall, right? So if you decide, let's see, it's a we, when we are ready, right, we can also see the marks, right, which are which you can see here in the finishing tool. Cut contour. You can also cut each tile if it goes on a cutter. So yes, you can do it, so the customer can automate, so can tile it automatically. Then in finishing, it can create an outline cut path. Okay, some of you might ask about the bleed, which sometimes customer would like to have on each tile. So the solution here, right, you can apply the bleed. So the option is either, normally the bleed will be added to the whole job, right? But if you want a bleed, additional bleed on each separate tile around the job, then you will probably be looking for a submitting tiling as a separate jobs, right? And then you can each tile will have a bleed, right? Because it's also the case, right? So and in that case, if we finish, right, let's assume we have our tiling. We don't need outline cut, but we can do it, right? Which will, if we can generate a cut outline path, you can see it here. It's pinkish red. So now if there is a cutter, you have, for instance, a Suma, right, to make it faster instead of manpower cutting the tiles, you can send it to a cutter with a particular, especially used for wallpapers, right? Probably. So you can add either a trim box or the bleed, but depending on where you want to cut the file, right? Either on the original image or on the bleed edge, or on a trim box edge, right? Then you can choke it a little bit. You will not see it much more. Probably you can corner the radius. Yeah, let's see if, yeah, you see. So if you are looking for a nicely trimmed corners around it, you can do it already here. And if it's a repetitive job, because you can do it already here, and then the graphic designer will not have to be doing every time. So apply, raster, reprocess a file, which also takes time, right? So you can, if you then have all the settings made here, you can submit a job, and then you can see the jobs were submitted each as a separate. Now, just you have to remember that you have to, if you submit like such, then you simply cannot edit it anymore, right? So this, you always reconsider what you want to do, right? If you already know the settings, right, then you just send it tile and to print, you see the tiles are different, then you can send it as a separate jobs, but you remember you will not be able to trim and cut it, right? It's waiting for media size, as you can see, because 60-inch, which is 1514, and the tile I made 1560, because it includes the overlap, right? So let's get back again to the tiling, as we are running out of time. Yeah, just finish on the tiling. Let's just open a job. We don't use auto trim, we just use ONYX evaluation, fast moving cars. Yeah, so we have 100%. You can enable tiling. What is important here, right? You can see, have the tile setups, right? Let's create one like this, or you can manually fill it in because it's a small job, right? So you have the finishing. If you set up the tile, you can play it around according to the specs, right? Tile overlap, you see where where the line will look like. How does the lines should look like? Is it a solid line, straight line, or the dotted, etc.? So here you can choose where the line should be printed. Either if you have a bleed or trim, you can use it a line to show where it's on the printer, but you don't necessarily need to do it, right? So you don't have to print it if you need. So it will add a cut, an overlap or a bleed, but you will not be and you will not print it necessarily the line, right? What might be useful, especially if customers, they do billboard printing for the employees or on the company, which will apply it on the billboard, right? You can do the generate a tile map, letter size A4, which will go to the rip itself, and then once it's fit, you print the all the tiles. You can create a PDF. Let's save it here, and then if you go, so if you go here, right, you will have see all the necessary information for the applicators, right? Overlap, etc. So they don't not, you see the name of the jobs, right? They submitted and printed, right? So it's to facilitate the job, right? And with the additional finishing tools, sorry, yeah, marks, you can enable the print, right, and set up the also the description of the job, right? Also, this will do in the finishing, right? So yeah, I think we have finishing. We are pretty much with tiling. Pretty much we are in the first part is done. Let's do the break, and then we'll quickly do finishing and color correction. yeah, and then which will more or less should take an hour, and then we will jump to the automation. We'll go briefly through the color correction and options and finishing. I'll not close it. Let